Welcome to Distillers Corner. This is where we pick out small parts of this hobby and check things out, okay? What is today? Today we are going to do grain prep. If you remember last week we bought grain in how to store the grain. Well, now let's start prepping it out so we can get ready to use it. Okay. All right. Well, first we need to know what is the main goal of prepping the grain. And the long and the short answer is we want to crack the grain open or grind the grain and to so that warm water can get inside and get the starch out that we can convert over into sugars. I mean, that is the short answer. We need those starches to get to sugars because that's what our yeast wants, right? All right, and as in malted grain, we need to also get to the enzymes, and that's what is actually going to do the conversion. And like a lot of your malted barley has more enzymes than it even needs to convert itself, so it will convert other things that is around it. Okay, so the very first thing that you're going to need in grain prep, I don't guess it. I mean, I guess you could guess the amount of grain you want, but hey, a scale. You know, just a small scale, they're not very expensive, but if you want to get a consistent recipe, grain bill, you got to have a scale, all right? So I think it's a wise investment if you're going to get into this hobby, is get yourself a nice scale, and it's easy. It's not very expensive. Okay. Let's talk about grain first, all right? Yes, I know corn is a grain, but I'm talking about like your barleys, your wheats, your rye, your oat, you know, whatever. Let's talk about that first, okay? Now, let me get back to this real quick. You can buy flaked products, which is... you don't have to mill that or nothing. It's already been pre-done. It's like a steamed roll. You don't even have to, I mean, you gotta hydrate it, yes. But that's a different subject altogether. Okay, so basically all we need to do is, and I got some grain right here. This is just a 2-row barley. All right, and they're just little seeds, so water would have a hard time getting into that little seed. So what we need to do is basically all we're trying to do is to crack it open. And how do we do that? Okay, well, one way of doing it, now this is the, I mean, if you don't have no choice, you don't have no choice. You could put, you know, amount, I ain't gonna fill this bag up, but if you put it in a plastic bag, right, you could crack it open. And granted, if you were doing this for real, you would use a lot more in the bag, but it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work to do it that way, but it does work. Might take you forever, but I know it's hard to see, but the seeds are cracked open into pieces to let that water, warm water, to get into that grain. Okay, so that would be one way to do it. All right. Now. Ooh, that would be a lot of work, especially if you're doing an all grain and you had to do 10 pounds, it would take a lot of work. Okay, the next thing is a blender. I can't say that I ever have done it this way, but let's say you put some of that seed in there. Let's see what happens. All right, it's going to get noisy. Ready? I mean, that did the job, right? I think that would be a lot better than the rolling pin. Okay, so that is one option. All right. All right, but now that would be an option. It would work. Whoop. Put that back down. It would work. Now, my favorite way, in which the way I do it, is I have a roller mill, right? And what I'm gonna do is, and all you gotta do is, you normally set this on top of a bucket, but I'm gonna just do it this way. Oops, I'll just do it on that paper plate. And what you would do is you take your electric or cordless drill, it would work a lot better with a lot more grain in it. But it does the same thing. It cracks it all open, because if you get too much like flour, then it will choke everything up. So that is, to me, this is the best way. You can pick up these grain mills. They're not terrible expensive, but they are, I mean, okay. So that's how I treat grain. You know, your barley and all, it breaks it all open, cracks it open. It will allow for the, like I said before, the warm water to get in to activate the enzymes that will convert to get to those starches that are in that seed and whatever else is with it. And there's ways of figuring that out. Okay, so that is that type of grain. The next is we're going to talk about corn. Okay, let's talk about corn. I mean, yes, corn is a grain, but it is a whole bunch different to talk about. Them kernels are very hard, all right, and they're very tough. They are tough. All right, so one option you do have corn is cornmeal, right? And you can buy it relatively cheap in the grocery store. But the problem with cornmeal, see how floury it is? It has a tendency, it can choke things up. It can get really tough to work with. I have made whiskeys with cornmeal and it turns out fantastic. So it is definitely one option, all right? Okay. Now, we'll put that over here. Now, I have heard you can take the blender. This is, and you could put, whoop, I need the blades. This would be one option. Let's try it out. I ain't gonna put too much in there, just a little bit. And we'll see how that turns out. Watch the noise. Ready? It would be very noisy. but it does the job. It does the job, so that would be one option. Now you notice how there's a difference between the cornmeal and that corn there. Yes, it does have a little bit of flour into it. Yeah, that'd be normal. And the big hunks. Now, the big hunks of shell, that kind of acts like, it will get, once you start mixing the hot water with it, and it will get pretty thick, okay? But, hey, that is what it is, right? Okay, so that is one option. All right. All right, the next option, and I don't have one. I've seen people taking angle grinders and making their own blades and putting them on a plastic bucket and feeding the corn down through it. That just looks awful sketchy to me. I would be afraid of someone would get hurt off of that. If you want to check that out, you can look around online for corn grinders. I guess you could make them where they were safe if you use like a metal pipe or something like that. I would just be afraid of that blade coming off and sticking you in the belly, and that wouldn't be good. No. So I would, my opinion, I would stay away from them unless you made one that was 100% safe. That would be different. And I think you could. It would have to be a metal product, you know, thick enough where if the blade did come apart, it couldn't come and get you. All right. So the other thing would be they do make grinders. And I will put a picture up here. One, I don't have one. I'd like to get one day because they are really fast and they make a good, you can actually set the grind on it to how fine it makes it. And I'll put a picture of one up, and you can get them relatively cheap. So here's that picture. Now the other, what I use is, oh, it's heavy. What I use is a coffee bean grinder. And yeah, if you wanted to go out and buy one of these, yes, it would be expensive. I was lucky enough, a friend gave it to me for free. Hey, free 99 is the best, right? And let me show you how it works. I just did a little bit of modification to it. Let me put a little bit of corn in. I ain't gonna put it all in there. All right. And like I said, sorry about the noise. Let me get this out of the way. It is heavy though. But if you look at the corn, it does a nice fine job. You get a little bit of flour with it, and then you get the shells are nibbled up, right? It looks very close to what I put in the blender, just a lot faster, okay? And that's what I use. All right. So that is what grain prep is. Because if you just put that whole kernel in hot water, it ain't going to do nothing. You're just wasting your time. And even as far as the grains go, that wouldn't be. You know, the barley and all the other stuff. I have had some recipes out there they want you to put a little bit in there, but anyway, that is grain prep. It's something we all have to do. And if you're going to continue in this hobby, you might want to consider, investing in some type of grinder. If I did not have that coffee bean grinder and didn't get it for free, I'd probably get one of those other kind of corn grinders, because we use a lot of corn. Yeah. What is bourbon? The recipe calls for minimum of 51% corn in the grain bill. So, you would use a lot of corn. Most of them I'm using, 10, 12, 14 pounds of corn. And actually corn is the cheaper option than the other grains. Okay, so with that being said, that is grain prep. It's a very important part of this hobby. Okay? So just remember, if you go too much flour, yes, you can work with it, but too much, it makes it tough. It does make it tough. All right? Okay, so that's grain prep. And with that is the last thing I got to say. Hey, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time here on Still Works in Brewing. Have a great day.